Hi, my name is Sherry Smith, and today I'm going to show you how to carve into clay. So I've been working with different languages, all with the same meaning, forgiveness. So I have I've used this once, and as you can see, I pressed through the clay and kind of did this carving where I had this here. And then once I use it, the paper kind of deteriorates. So I retrace it and retrace it again, cut it down so that way I can kind of get an idea of like where I want to put it on my piece. And once I have it kind of centered, I'm going to take a sharp pencil and I'm just going to press on the lines. And it's going to make an indentation in the clay. So if I hold this, you could see, okay? But you don't want to let go of this paper or it'll be virtually impossible to get it lined back up. And that would be pretty much terrible, and you'd have to start over. And I really don't want to start over, or I would show you an example. Maybe I'll do that after this video. So I'm pressing down, and I use the edge of the pencil instead of using the point. So what I mean by that is use this part, not this part, not that part. And if you have a needle tool, that works. You could use a pen, that works. But you want it to be sharp. I used the end of a slip trail applicator, and I used the edge of it, and that worked pretty well. And if you forget where you've traced, again, you can like pull it up and you can also see the indentation on the clay itself too. And this is the first step. So after I remove this paper, I'm going to have to carve again, which the next step with carving into the clay directly is rather time consuming and kind of annoying, but you know, if you go into it with the mindset of like, okay, I might get annoyed, a little irritated, and that it's going to take a little bit of time, you can kind of, you know, have a resolve with yourself that you know it's going to be a task that has some challenges. Now this right here, I can't really get to it for the edge, so I am going to poke with the tip just to get in so I know where that shape is. So you can see it kind of just gives you holes instead. All right. Okay. I'm going to keep it together. Here I'm on an edge, which it's a little tricky, but it'll be nice having this word, the fluidity of the word going from one side to the next side instead of it just being on a flat surface. And it's nice that it's going to continue around here instead of it being just like here, here. So it's fluidity for the eyes. So yeah, forgiveness. Why forgiveness? Well, you know, we're always told we should forgive, 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 forgive and forget. No one really tells you how to forgive. Something that I'm focusing on with my artwork. These are spiritual cleansing boxes that I am creating. They have 6 sides with one small opening. And the opening, you write on a piece of paper a resentment, something that's negative that you've been holding on to. It's really not good for your soul. And you put it in the box. And then the box, when finished, has been fired to over 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit and can withstand fire. So then you take the resentments, they're on paper, and they're flammable. And if you don't have a fire pit or a fireplace, you can squirt some lighter fluid in the spiritual cleansing box and set it on fire that way. Everything inside burns up, symbolically releasing you from that negativity. So, what is the opposite of resentment? Opposite of resentment for me is forgiveness. So, that's a one tool, one way that you can do that. It's very cleansing, hence spiritual cleansing. Some people call them burn boxes, God boxes, resentment boxes. And you can reuse this box. And once this box has been fired, the time, the date is also stamped in the clay. So ceramics, when it's been fired in a kiln, let's say 3,000 years from now, they'll be able to say, hey, this was made in the year 2023, or whenever it is that you've made whatever it is that you're making. All right, so here we go. I think I'm ready to pull this off. And as I pull it off, I don't think it's going to do it now, but there's really like a little pieces of paper. That's fine if it's just a little bit. All right, so now we're going to get on to the carving part, which if you take a sharp pencil, and this is the part that's rather time consuming. So you're going to carve, and then you got to get rid of those hitchhikers. So there's a couple ways of doing that. You can come at an angle like this, and that look how clean that is compared to this. This is straight up and down. This is a clean because I came at an angle like that. Okay, but you see those little hitchhikers? You need to get rid of those little clay balls. And I like to have the image in front of me of what I'm doing. I always like to say progress, not perfection. Progress. Now, if you have like a bunch of hitchhikers, that's what I call these little. I'll show you. Here we go. Here we go. So up and down, and then I'm left with that. Okay, that's terrible. Okay, but you can take a rib tool and you could scrape that off, but it still leaves remnants of hitchhikers. So let me clean that up. Okay. Yeah, the curves, it can be challenging. Why am I doing this? Well, what I'm going to do is fill in these lines with some colored clay, which is underglaze. If you have a stain, that can work too. Sometimes I use my fingers to smooth out what I'm carving. You don't have to use a pencil. It was nearby. I actually prefer doing this with a needle tool. Okay, so as you can see, we've got that. Now I'm gonna move on to this one. Ah, let's just say you completely jack this up. Okay, it's like, whoops, I messed up. All right, how to fix it. Here's how you fix it. You're gonna take a rib and clean off your rib, and you're gonna smooth out almost like an eraser. You're gonna erase away. You're gonna erase away this. Okay, and look, like it was never there. Reposition. And revisit. Sometimes, we make mistakes. We are human. We would hardly be human if we did not make mistakes. Question is, are we going to learn from those mistakes? There we go. Okay. Now, continue. Your first time you do something, it's not great. I mean, give yourself some grace. If it's the first time you're doing it, I think it was like Michael Jordan. He is so successful because he's failed so many times. So failure is a part of being successful. We learn from our failures and grow. When I first started making these boxes, it was kind of frustrating because I would work 12 hours on a box and it wouldn't work out. It would fall apart, and there was just like so many different things that I was trying to figure out how to create a 6-sided cube with one little tiny hole. And with ceramics, that's not an easy thing to do. And in my other videos, I mean, I do take you through the process of how to do it, but it took me months of working to figure out how to do that. And also, I took a sculpture class at Queen City Clay. My professor, Kurt Mayhew, he helped me work through the issues of that, and I figured it out. But, if you're working on something for 12 hours and then it falls apart, yeah, it's disappointing, very frustrating. But it wasn't all for nothing. I learned from it, and that is invaluable. And what you don't see on here is there's wax. I painted this with wax first. Not very much, but a little bit. All right, so now I'm on the edge here. And And, just as much as I love working with clay, I love sharing this knowledge too. These boxes, they're very special to me. It's the first time in my life with artwork that when I started making these last year, and I came up with the idea in 2008, but really dove deep last year. And it was the first time in my life that I felt this insatiable desire that I had to make these. Not that I would just wanted to, I wanted to, but I also felt like I had to, compelled to make them. And as you can see, I wipe these hitchhiker clay pieces off of my pencil, that, and you're left with like all of these balls of clay, scraps, and every now and then you want to get those out of your surface because they'll get on your piece, and you'll have all these like little flattened hitchhikers everywhere. So yeah, this process is a little annoying, but it's not so bad if you know ahead of time, like, okay, this is just part of the game. It's just what we do. Go into it with some patience, maybe listen to some music, maybe allow the process itself to have some meditative qualities to it. I am carving into clay that is leather hard, almost hard leather, a burnishing consistency quality. And this technique, this excising of this clay, is similar. This technique is similar to Mishima, in that we're going to fill in the carved lines with underglaze. Underglaze is just a fancy term for colored clay. That's all it is. When the colored clay is fired with the clay body, they become one. Okay, so I've done like half of it. So really I have two things covered here. And let me show you the next step, which is taking colored clay, which I am using this jet black underglaze. You could use a brush and just paint that in there. And then when it dries, then we can scrape off the excess and it'll just be in the carved parts. So let that sit. You know, you can even take your finger and sandwich it in there. I like to do a little bit of brushwork to make sure that I get down deep, and then put some extra thick stuff on the top. Uh-oh, almost forgot that little spot. Don't want to forget that. Okay. And then you'll let this set up. And I have one that's already set up. Let me go get that. Okay, so this is a different box. Let me set this one off to the side. And I have put blue colored clay underneath. Then I painted it with wax. And then I have carved this symbol, word that's in a foreign language that also means forgiveness. But you can really see the wax. So let me show you when you put underglaze or anything on top of a wax surface, it's gonna beat up like that. And then you just take a sponge and you just wipe it off. Okay. I kind of like this different color look. That's what I'm going for. Okay, so if I have this box, this is a little premature. You want to wait for that underglaze to dry. But once it's dry, you can just wipe. And then you can take a rib tool and smooth this over. See, because it's wet, it's smearing like that. But you can kind of get the idea that it's going to have really thin lines compared to these thicker lines. Thank you for joining me today. It has been a pleasure.